only 4 people, but it's okay, better as nothing. And because Shimon is a little ill, I will moderate this session. The first action we have from the last meeting was Gaurav with...
Radu, one thing,
yes.
I think somebody has to record also. Is someone doing that?
I think Shimon is doing the recording.
Hi guys, I'm recording. That's no problem.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So the first point in our meeting is coming from Gaurav, which want to tell us about the planning and the upgrade of Knative, because we have some yes.
First of all, we discovered that to upgrade Knative in Kyma, we need to upgrade first Kubernetes, and it turned out that upgrading the Kubernetes as such might be a complex task for now. So we dropped this activity altogether for this milestone. So upgrading of Kubernetes and upgrading of Knative is something that we will take up in the next milestone. So yeah, this is one thing I had. And yeah, the other was for all the team members. If they get a chance to look at the use cases, any comments, anything they feel we can improve or add or edit, that will be helpful.
And with the planning, what we have decided now is to go with the old version for Knative in this milestone, to use like the current installation of Kyma with serving 0 to 1 and the pre-release of eventing 03, which worked at least from a local installation with Knative. It works. We have tested this without Kyma installation, with our new published application, which is based on Knative now. Okay. We have a new colleagues now, which is very interesting, and not new colleagues, but interesting in this working group. This is Suleiman, and he also has done a nice thing using KO. So if you want to share with us your experience, Suleiman, I will stop the sharing, and then you can share your screen.
Okay. Right, let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I wanted to share my experience with Co so far. Actually, I myself also came across this just yesterday, and I just started learning about it. So our purpose was to publish images of this NUT streaming provisioner, controller, and dispatcher at first, and this is under Knative eventing, and there are, as you know, a couple of ways to do that. But we took a look and see that Co actually manages it pretty well, pretty easy. And what is Co? Co is just a CLI tool coming from Google. It makes it very easy to handle containers. Actually, it's one more abstraction on top of that. So we don't have to deal with, for example, different versions of the image. So what I mean by that, I can just show you. For example, this is a sample deployment file. So usually in the image section, you need to provide, the registry first and then the image with the proper version tag. But using Co, you can just provide the paths, the import paths for the application or for the package, and that's it. I'm publishing this image, publishing a new version of this image, and then using it from the deployments. It's all taken care of by Co. And how does it happen? Actually, how does it do that? Instead of using kubectl apply, you are just using co-apply. And it's pretty simple to install it. It's just a go-get command. And after that, you need to provide an environment variable to the Docker repo that you want to use it with, and that's pretty much it. So you can use it with the deployments, or you can just use it to publish a new version of the image. So that's what I've done. Actually, I have used this co-publish to publish images from this controller and dispatcher. How did I do it? It's I actually have a screenshot of it for simplicity. What I've done is I first exported this environment variable to our Kyma project path using event plus knative and nets folder. And after that, once inside this nets folder under knative eventing, I didn't add anything, like I didn't add Docker file, or I didn't build the image, but I didn't build the application. Instead, I just use this command co-publish -b -t. This -t means the tag that I would like to use for the image, and I provided the relative path. If you are under the go path, then you can just use the relative path for the package that you want to build. And this B just disables one default behavior. Well, by default, it adds the MD5 hash to as a suffix to the image name, and we don't want that. So once you run this command, it first builds, and then it publishes this image. At the end, it is being published. And after that, I just did the same for dispatcher, and that's pretty much it. It also has different different things as well, like co-resolve, which is same as apply, but it prints out what image it's going to use. For example, here you can see in the deployment file, this is the actual thing that is being used when you when you use co-apply. So that's pretty convenient to take care of the images. And you can also use it with Minikube if you want to give it a try first with Minikube instead of publishing to the production environment. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions?
I just to add insight of Knative developers group. KO is very much used to change some subcomponents of Knative, and it's very easy because you do not have to write Makefiles, Docker. The only thing is to go and in your directory and apply it, and Go is do all the other stuff for of course only for Go language.
Yeah, it's only for Go.
You just answered my question.
Yeah. And it's very, very easy to be, not on, easy to be used, but also it works very good. You know, the speed to deploy is nice. And of course, in the local environment in Minikube, you have to use the Docker exposed by the Minikube to have the same one.
Yeah, it explains the steps here under Minikube.
Ah, yes. You have to expose Docker env. Okay. Thanks, Reimann.
Thank you.
And I think just a moment. Okay, the next point is coming from Gaurav, which he will present us this design adoption design paper, or the first ideas how we can integrate better Knative inside of Kyma.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. Okay, I think somebody has to stop sharing. Then I can share.
Sorry, I have to click not a little. Now?
Yeah, let me try. Yeah, it works. So okay. So basically, the idea was that in the past few days, we started figuring out how we can um, adopt Knative inside or Knative inside eventing inside Kyma, so that we can first of all leverage what we are getting from Knative, and at the same time how it can be aligned in a way that it still serves the core Kyma functionalities, which is to extend the applications via the eventing. And wanted to see that how we can do this, what are the challenges involved, and then where we can have the scope for some kind of improvement that we can propose or maybe contribute back to Knative. So this is more like a groundwork for all these concepts. So we started with something like a high level diagram. So basically this is what we want to achieve eventually. So we want to achieve a state where you have different events coming inside Kyma, and as a operator or some other persona, we haven't decided exactly who it will be, but they should be able to somehow decide that which events can use which kind of pops up. Do they want to use something like a local one, for example nats, or they want to use something like a cloud pops up? So the rationale behind this is not all events are equally critical and equally need to be reactive when it comes to what someone wants to do with the event. For example, something like I don't know, order created is something maybe that will be more critical because there might be a business transaction that should always succeed. But something like analytical one, for example, the item viewed, maybe it is not critical, and if it gets missed, it might not have a big impact, or it doesn't impact the business aspects as much. That can be still absorbed. So this gives the advantage to the customer that he can improve his cost efficiency when he can basically distribute the load of the events to different pops up, and then also get the quality of service, and then in turn save money how based on what kind of quality of service is getting for different events, as compared to just using one solution for all the kind of events. So this is more like a pluggability option, but this is like a high level diagram how eventually we in Kyma should build our aspects like the pollution and like the publish and the subscription controller that should act as the abstraction layers on top of Knative, and then help the customer arrive at a state where he can say, okay, I want to publish one event to this pub-sub and another this pub, at the same time also consume those events from those respective pub-subs. So this kind of nicely describes the flow, how it should happen eventually. You guys can have a look. Then also we have discussed or detailed out different aspects of the eventing. So the first one is how we want to provision a messaging solution, basically how we want to provision a pub-sub or a proxy of a pub-sub, so to say. For example, in case of Google Cloud pub-sub, you might have some kind of a provisioner that is acting as a proxy and then sending the actual request to the Google Cloud. But in case of something locally deployed like a Kafka or Nats, you might have the actual one running, and then this will be redirected to the dispatcher, which will act as a let's say a proxy layer for those, but that is still acting in the local one. So the provisioner has basically two main components. One is a controller and other is a dispatcher. The controller is the one that is responsible for the life cycle of those metadata objects that are concerned with the eventing. So this basically translates to the topics or the subscriptions when you want to publish or consume the events. And the dispatcher is the one that is doing the runtime work. For example, if an event is coming to be stored in Kafka, then it will go via dispatcher and then eventually reach the Kafka pops up. Same point for the consuming. If the event has to be delivered to some subscriber who is willing to consume some particular event, then it will happen via the dispatcher part of that. Any questions? Anything so far?
I only want to add that this controller and dispatcher is coming for Knative. It's not implemented by us, so that we are only transparently use this using the CRD channel and
True.
it's a nice thing.
So basically, for example, Radu has contributed the controller and dispatcher for the nets, and similarly for the other pub subs, there are already provisioners, which is essentially controller and dispatcher are being written. But in case there is some different pub sub for which it is not yet written, then maybe the team or somebody has to contribute. For example, the SAP Enterprise Messaging guys are trying to write one for the EMS in SAP. Yeah, and the other thing or the challenge that we have found so far is that we have something called event types in Kyma, and we are trying to figure out that how they should map to some concept in Knative eventing. So currently Knative eventing has channels, but channel itself is a slightly, let's call it a heavy object, and it creates a lot of details or a lot of sub-components around it. So currently we have to map them one to one, but eventually we don't want to have this in the long run. We want to map it to some kind of a lightweight solution so that the channel doesn't introduce a lot of load. For example, if you have a lot of events, then you end up having a lot of channels, which means that you might have a lot of those surrounding Istio services and other components that come or that come alongside with channel. So this is something that we want to do in the future. But for now, since most of the provisioners that are written, they are mapping the channel and the event types to one-on-to-one. For example, the Kafka topic is mapped to a channel. So for now, we are following this path, but that is something that will change in the future. So when we map a channel to event type, this is up in the high level it looks like. So we have a foo Kyma event type, and then it will create a foo Knative channel. Then there will be two services that gets created. One is the Kubernetes service, that is where the request can go for the foo channel, and then it is basically referred by the Istio virtual service. So the actual redirection is happening via the Istio virtual service, which is redirecting to the net dispatcher. So net dispatcher is always one for the whole pub sub, but these two services are created per channel. So currently that's how the mapping looks like, and this is something that we have to live for now, but this is something that will improve in the future. Any comments or anything to add, Radu or anybody else? Any questions? No. So if not, then I will quickly cover the publishing and the consumption part. So in the publishing, currently we are writing basically with the API that contains the event metadata and the payload both in the body, because this was the first thing that we did to start with the cloud eventing specification. But in the later days, now they have also come up with the option that you can specify the metadata in the headers. And then our idea is that as a part of evolving with the Knative adoption, at some point we should provide a second API where the metadata is contained in the headers, and then we will be more aligned with the cloud events and also with the Knative eventing, because they are also using the same concepts for routing the events inside the channels. So then the advantage would be that we can have a really lightweight publish in the long run, which will not be doing too much of processing, but simply forwarding the request. It can act as a proxy in the end. But we have to first start with that. So this is the whole flow, how the request eventually goes. So you can see that it goes to a channel, and then from there, channel is nothing but a service, but then it gets dispatched to the net dispatcher, and then it's served by the net's pod, and then eventually it reaches the net streaming. So this is kind of the whole flow described there. In the consumer part, currently we are using two subscriptions. One subscription that we have in the Kyma level, which is something that we that the application developer will define either as a virtue of creating a Lambda, or he will define it by himself when he wants to trigger a microservice via event. So in the background, we will create a Knative subscription. When a Kyma subscription gets created, there will be some additional business checks that we will do on top of what we have right now, just like the event activation, to ensure that we provide the same functionality that we are doing at present in Kyma. But again, once the event activation is successful, then the subscription is created, and then it refers to a Knative channel. And after that, the dispatcher will do its normal work of realizing this subscription at the Knative level, and then delivering the events to a serverless endpoint, which can be a Lambda or a microservice. So I will, yep. So there are some open items that we have, like how we want to understand the Knative resources and how we can align them with the Kyma eventing model, how the events are coming inside. Currently, they're coming via the ingress. And I believe that at the Knative side also, they want to have some kind of an ingress as a source. So we have this opportunity also to align with them to see if we can propose something similar for them. So this is an open item covered now, but we might take it forward in the coming days. So this is an open pull request, and you guys can have a look at that. And in case there are any inputs or anything to improve or add, just please feel free to provide the comments. Yeah, that's pretty much from my side. I will share one more thing. Just to continue that, so yesterday I shared the Kyma use cases with the Knative community. I sent them a documentation because their meeting was quite late, around 11:30 in the night, and I will get back to them now and then see that how we can derive those use cases along with them. So we will have more updates in the coming days from the Knative guys. Any questions or any comments on this?
To present us the use cases? No, not yet.
I presented it last time, I believe. It was there.
Okay, this is the same. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a separate document. I think if I go to the working group Knative, so yeah, these are the use cases. So these are the same use cases presented to the Knative community. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we have our classical end-to-end user story for use case. But then we have another use cases which we are not realizing right now. But I believe that at some point we will go in this direction where we can use the eventing for achieving the asynchronous workflows. At the same time, we can also use the Knative aspects to integrate with the third-party matching systems, both for the publishing and the consumption parts. Mm-hmm. So essentially, with these two use cases, what we want to do is anything that is happening in an application, we can reflect that in a cloud ecosystem. At the same time, if there is something that is happening in a cloud ecosystem, we can listen to that and we can then consume and then take action in application. So this is a symmetry of that, but eventually we are integrating a cloud system with the application via the eventing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much from my side.
Thanks a lot, Gaurav.
Thank you.
And I think
I'll stop sharing. So, do you want to present the agenda once more to see if there is anything else?
No. I suppose that you have add something new to the document now. Very nice. It's very good that Knative knows about our use cases. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we have or someone other issue or to discuss something?
The good thing is we have a new attendee today, Sayan. So hello, Sayan.
Hi.
Okay. Hi.
I'm just trying to follow what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. Thanks a lot and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.